I'm told by a lot of folks in Washington, New York, and LA and San Francisco that the economy is doing great. And now, if you've noticed, cable news is beginning to shift a little bit on Donald Trump. Now that the rich have gotten all their tax cuts, sure, there's still criticism from time to time, though. Oh, no, economy's booming, economy's doing great. Based on what? Based on the stock market. Now, the stock market is not the equivalent of the economy. It is at best one indicator, and a very poor indicator, especially when they're doing stock buybacks, which artificially inflates the price of their stocks and hence the stock market. So the stock market is doing well. Here, let's show you a chart. That's the Dow Jones, and you can see it going up in the last year. And of course, if you're on television and you're a millionaire, you look at your own stock account and you go, hey, economy's booming. I'm an even bigger millionaire now. But for the rest of us, it's not necessarily the case at all. In fact, that leads us to a new report, and HuffPost here covering the report, saying most Americans can't afford even a minor emergency, according to a recent report from Bankrate, a website that provides financial advice. Of those surveyed, just 39% of respondents said they'd be able to cover an unexpected $1,000 bill with funds from their savings. Most of the other respondents said they would have no choice but to accrue debt by paying with a credit card, borrowing from family and friends, or getting a loan. You understand that? This is first brought to my attention, and I should have known about it earlier, but by Joe Sandberg, who's the founder of aspiration.com. That is a more progressive financial institution. They happen to be our sponsor. Take it for what it's worth. If you want, check out aspiration.com. But he was on the show because of that, and he was talking about how a small financial emergency, or what people on the coast some people on the coast might consider small, would knock out most American families and send them reeling. And now there are reports after reports confirming what he was saying. And in fact, I'll get back to Joe in a second because he has a bold new proposal about it that's also in the papers today. So in this case, though, think about it. 61% of Americans cannot financially survive a $1,000 emergency. They're financially knocked out. They got no money left. They got to do a loan, sell a car, etc. Amazing. Now, here's another stat with a lower number. According to a Federal Reserve report released last year, 44% of adults wouldn't be able to afford an unexpected $400 emergency expense. They'd either borrow the money or sell something to cover the bill. That figure is on the decline, though, and they explained that it used to be up to 50% back in 2013. So, $1,000 knocks out 61% of Americans. A $400 emergency knocks out 44% of Americans. They have no money left, they're wiped out. Now, for a lot of you out there, you might think, yeah, no duh. We already know that, we live that. I'm telling you right now, for the people in power, whether they're politicians, they're on television, etc., the so-called influencers, they have no idea. They would be shocked by those numbers. Why? They live in their own bubble, and in their bubble, everybody's doing great. Their money's in the stock market is booming, right or wrong, bubble or not, who cares? Money for everybody, $1,000, that's what I made in the last 15 minutes in the market. I do declare. But then you wonder why everybody didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders did so well. Because those were the two candidates on the two different sides who said the status quo is miserable. And we are rooting for change. Now they had different ideas of change, but guess what happened? Donald Trump defeated 16 other Republicans to win the nomination. It was not a coincidence. It was largely because he was saying that he was for that change. Now, I think in his case, he was lying. Bernie Sanders closed a 60-point lead. And the people on TV keep saying they can't figure out why. This is why. You might be doing great, but the rest of America is not. The majority of America is not. Now, one particular aspect of it that's important is medical bills. So HuffPost explains that as well. Medical bills are particularly foreboding. In 2016, medical expenses were the largest contributor to increasing the number of individuals living in poverty, according to a Census Bureau report. That year, 10.5 million people fell below the poverty line due to medical bills. What a brutal system we have. In the rest of the developed world, they all have universal health care coverage. Everyone is covered. They don't have to worry every single day, is this the day I get wiped out? Is this the day I get sick and I can't afford it? Whereas for us, 10.5 million people brutalized below the poverty line on medical bills alone, and let alone the ones that are going to bankruptcy. And last thing here, HuffPost actually followed the story of one particular individual to just give you an illustration of how this works sometimes. It's James DeVolid. He's 54 years old, and he had 2 jobs in Arkansas. One was at Tyson Foods and the other one was at Walmart. So janitor at Walmart, and he worked in Tyson Food Distribution Center, and his job required cleaning freezers. Well, he wound up getting nerve damage, so he couldn't do the job that required him to be in the freezers. So now he was knocked down to just one job. So he went from a whopping salary of $40,000, working 2 jobs, and he only made $40,000. Down to one job, he's now down to $20,000 a year. Again, I know for the people in power, this seems unimaginable. $20,000 is a good day in the market for them. This guy had to work himself to the bone to get there. And you know what happened? He had a good insurance with Tyson, but as he was switching to Walmart, he didn't have the insurance yet. He was going to get it from Walmart. Boom, he had a heart attack. Wiped out. So an $8,000 loan here, another giant loan there, and they were absolutely wiped out, going begging to and pleading, and understandably so, asking for humanity and decency from their friends and anyone else that would listen. And near the end of the article, HuffPost explains here, they've been scraping together, and it's written by Eleanor Goldberg. They've been scraping together funds to cover the bills. A friend loaned them $100. The family sold one of their vehicles, and they're talking about selling their second car. But that would create problems for Susan, his wife, who drives an hour each way to Little Rock for work every day. Her primary goal right now is to stay on top of their monthly mortgage payments so they don't lose their home. This is the reality for a lot of Americans you never see on television. And this is why they're angry, because they're right. They're right to be angry. Here's a quote from Susan DeVolid. She said, "There's no light at the end of this. It's discouraging. You're working so hard, and then you get hit with something. We have nothing now." So that brings us back to Joe Sandberg, and he wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle today that even California has poverty rates that are far, far too high. And he suggested something, I had not seen before, $25 minimum wage. Now, I know what the people on TV are gonna say, outrageous. And look, you gotta do some math on it. You gotta see if it makes sense. You gotta think of all the different angles here. I'm not saying I'm 100% in favor of it right out of the gate, but I wanna give you context, okay? The current federal minimum wage is $7.25. You know what that is if you work a full-time job, 40 hours a week? Just $15,080. That's the federal minimum wage. That's what people are getting for full-time work, 15,000 bucks. $15 an hour, which most progressives argue for, only gets you to $31,200. It's not like you're living in the lap of luxury. $25 an hour gets you to $52,000, which Joe and now apparently some progressives are arguing is at least the beginning of a living wage. So I don't know if that's the right answer. I do know that we need to cover everybody in America with decent health care. I think Medicare for all is the right way to do that. But one thing I know most of all is the people in power have no idea how the average American is getting crushed on a daily basis. This is not a way to live. We need real change, fundamental change, so you could have decent wages and not be shell-shocked by any emergency that comes along. I think America deserves that, and we deserve a leader who's actually gonna fight for that. If you become a member of the Young Turks, you'll be saying,
"You know, I'm like a smart person."
So do it right now, tytnetwork.com/join. Get the whole Young Turks show every day.